What do you say to some writers, some theologians even, who would impute a form of appalling sexism to the Apostle Paul?
Yeah.
Who would say that here is a man who is paternalistic, macho, and dismissive of women?
I would tell them to go and read Romans 16. Of course, the trouble with Romans 16 is if you ever go to a lecture course on Romans, people get so excited about the first 8 chapters that they barely get to 9 to 11, let alone 12 to 16. But chapter 16 begins by saying, I commend to you Phoebe, who's a deacon at the church in Cenchreae. Paul is giving this lady Phoebe, who seems to be an independent businesswoman traveling. He doesn't say, I'm giving it to Phoebe's husband. He's giving it to Phoebe, for goodness sake. She's coming to Rome. And the high probability is that Paul was expecting Phoebe to be the one who would go around the different house churches in Rome, reading this letter out and quite possibly explaining it. Now, that's a hypothesis, you can't prove it, but that is one custom which seems likely in that world. That means that it's quite probable that the first person ever to do a Bible exposition of Romans was a woman who was a deacon in the church of Cenchreae. And if you read on through Romans 16, there's lots of other women, including Junia, who's an apostle and so on, who are in leadership roles in the church. Paul accepts this as the norm.
And yet you know that Paul also says that women should be subject to their husbands in his written epistles, in explicit terms.
In 1 Timothy 2, and of course there is a debate as to whether 1 Timothy is Pauline or not, but even supposing it is, 2 of the hardest verbs to translate in Paul are there, where he says, I do not allow a woman to authentine. Look up authentine in a Greek dictionary. It includes all sorts of meanings, including murder. Paul can't mean that. But what's going on? I think it's usurping authority. He's right. It's one hypothesis, this is only a hypothesis, but it's not a bad one, is that 1 Timothy is written to a church in Ephesus. What do we know about Ephesus? The main religion in Ephesus, great is Artemis of the Ephesians, is a female cult where you've got women only in authority. It's possible that some in Ephesus were thinking that if we've got a new sort of religious expression, we better have women running it. So if there's any men in leadership here, sorry, you'll have to make room. Now, I don't know that, I can't prove it. I've explored that and some other options. In other words, it's not as easy as the King James Version would make it sound, and it's been very interesting to me to see over the course of my lifetime the way in which some people have clung to 1 Timothy 2 as though that's clear as day and enables us to override 1 Corinthians 11, Romans 16, etc. I'd rather do it the other way.